In 2009, Scotland pulled off something no one had dared to even think about for over 400 years. They brought the first 11 Eurasian beavers back to a land where the species had been extinct since the Middle Ages. Many called it a dangerous gamble. Farmers worried they would destroy forests, flood pastures, and completely upend the ecosystem. But just a few years later, even the biggest skeptics had to admit that these animals weighing less than 65 pounds had sparked one of the most impressive natural recoveries in modern history. This is the story of the first legally permitted mammal reintroduction in UK history, and how just a few beavers armed with nothing but mud and branches managed to do what millions of pounds of human investment had always struggled to achieve. Part 1. Scotland before the beavers vanished. If you could travel back in time about 1,000 years, Scotland would look like a completely different world compared to what we know today, long before stone castles popped up on the hillsides, and before humans started digging canals, building dams, or trying to control every single river. Nature here had its very own engineers. Those were the Eurasian beavers. This lumbering-looking animal used to be spread all across Scotland's rivers, streams, and wetlands, from the vast glens of the Central Belt to the damp forests of the Highlands. Almost anywhere there was fresh water, there were signs of beavers at first glance. It's hard to believe that a rodent weighing just 40 to 65 pounds could literally reshape a landscape. But in modern ecology, beavers belong to a very rare group of species known as ecosystem engineers, creatures capable of physically altering their surrounding environment, thereby impacting the lives of hundreds of other species. Instead of just adapting to nature like most animals do, beavers actively modify nature to suit their own lifestyle. And, completely by accident, every other living thing ends up benefiting from their handiwork whenever they find a suitable stream. A beaver family gets right to work on a routine that hasn't really changed in thousands of years of evolution. They use their incredibly strong incisors to fell small trees, drag the branches into the stream, and weave them together with rocks, grass, and mud to build a sturdy dam. Their goal is super simple: slow down the water flow and create a pool deep enough to protect their lodge from predators. But what seems like a basic survival instinct actually kicks off an unbelievable ecological chain reaction. Once the water is blocked, the water level starts to rise and spill over the banks. Narrow streams quickly turn into brand new ponds and wetlands. Rainwater that used to just flush downstream in a matter of hours is now held back for days, or even weeks. The water slowly seeps into the ground, recharging groundwater supplies and keeping the soil moist even during dry spells. This creates the absolute perfect environment for plant life to thrive, while also opening up safe breeding grounds for fish, frogs, insects, and countless other aquatic creatures. Before long, these new bodies of water are literally teeming with life. Dragonflies show up first, followed by aquatic insects. They become an all-you-can-eat buffet for frogs, fish, and waterfowl. The riverside shrubs grow lush and green thanks to the steady water supply, offering shelter for small birds and mammals. Even predators like otters and foxes get in on the action because their prey becomes so much more abundant. A beaver dam isn't just a home for a beaver family. It acts as the hub of an entire micro-ecosystem, a place where hundreds of species coexist and flourish. That's exactly why many scientists today refer to beavers as nature's architects. Without excavators, concrete, or blueprints, they quietly shaped the Scottish landscape for millennia. Every dam they built helped retain water, slow the flow, and breathe more life into the surrounding land. And for centuries, Scotland's nature ran like a well-oiled machine in this near-perfect way until one single species was erased from the picture. Part 2. When Scotland lost its natural engineers, but that nearly perfect operating system couldn't last forever. Starting in the Middle Ages, Eurasian beavers became prime hunting targets across the continent. Their thick, practically waterproof pelts were considered some of the most valuable fur of the era. People ate their meat, and castoreum, a secretion from their scent glands, was heavily used in folk medicine and perfumes. As demand skyrocketed, the hunting quickly outpaced the population's natural ability to recover. Over the centuries, human pressure just kept dialing up. Riparian forests were logged for timber, and wetlands were drained and converted into farmland, constantly shrinking the beaver's habitat. Even the pockets that were left were no longer safe enough for them to breed and sustain their numbers. For centuries, beaver numbers in Scotland were in a free-fall. The riverside forests that used to echo with the sound of trees felled by beavers slowly went silent. The old dams were left unrepaired. Over time, they rotted away and completely breached, leaving the rivers to flow freely as if these engineers had never been there in the first place. There were no more generations of beaver families to maintain the old structures or build new ones. One by one, the small ponds vanished, and the wetlands slowly dried out, eventually being replaced by brush or young woodland. These changes happened way too slowly for people at the time to really notice. But for the ecosystem, it was the loss of a process that had been running continuously for thousands of years. By around the 15th or 16th century, beavers were believed to be completely extinct in Scotland. A species that had helped shape the landscape of the entire country for millennia was gone, simply due to human overexploitation. The crazy thing is, that loss didn't trigger an overnight disaster. No forests collapsed in a single day, no rivers instantly ran dry, because it happened so gradually. Almost no one realized that nature was quietly losing a massive, critical function. Every year, just a few more dams were abandoned. Every rainy season, the water just flowed downstream a little bit faster. These tiny shifts snowballed over decades, then centuries, until the entire landscape looked radically different from the days when beavers roamed, without dams to hold back the water. Rain pouring off the hillsides rushed downstream way faster after heavy storms. Wetlands that only existed thanks to beaver ponds started shrinking or disappearing altogether. The natural water retention capacity of the watersheds degraded generation after generation. During the rainy season, the flow was much stronger, washing topsoil and mud downstream. Come the dry season, many streams dried up much faster because the soil wasn't holding on to water like it used to. Areas that once held water year-round started baking in the summer, while winters brought far more aggressive, fast-moving currents. The entire natural rhythm of the rivers had shifted without a single concrete dam or man-made structure ever being built. That shift triggered a massive chain reaction. The shallow pools that used to be breeding grounds for frogs and aquatic insects became more and more scarce. The food supply for many water birds plummeted right along with them. Riparian ecosystems became incredibly monotonous, while the landscape's overall resilience against droughts and floods steadily weakened over time. The wild part is that literally no other animal could step in to fill the beaver's shoes. When this engineer vanished, the system kept surviving. Sure, but it was no longer operating anywhere near its peak efficiency. It took centuries and the evolution of ecological science before humans finally started putting the pieces together. Researchers compared areas in Europe where beavers still lived to places where they'd been gone for ages. And they noticed a mind-blowing common denominator: wherever there were beavers, the river systems were consistently more diverse and stable. Wherever the beavers were gone, the landscape was slowly losing its ability to hold water and self-regulate. Scotland didn't just lose an animal. The country lost an ecosystem engineer, a creature that silently managed the waters, built habitats, and held together the balance of a massive ecological web. And the biggest question at the time was if these engineers were brought back after a 400-year absence. Would Scotland's nature still remember how to heal itself? Part 3. the gamble known as the Scottish Beaver Trial. By the late 20th century, Scottish scientists had a pretty solid grasp on the role beavers play in nature. The issue was no longer about whether they were useful, but whether Scotland was actually ready to welcome back a species that had been gone from its homeland for over 4 centuries. This wasn't a decision made over a couple of boardroom meetings. In reality, the project went through nearly a decade of prep work. Starting in the mid-1990s, Scottish Natural Heritage and various conservation groups launched a massive series of studies. They dug through historical records to map out where beavers used to live, evaluated whether the current habitats were still suitable, and studied the playbooks of Norway, Germany, and other European countries where beaver populations had been successfully restored. Experts also built predictive models on how beavers would impact forestry, water supplies, agriculture, and local communities. Every single factor was put under a microscope, from the human population density near the release sites and year-round food availability, to the very real possibility of beaver dams messing with drainage systems or livestock farming. They even held town halls and consultations with locals, landowners, farmers, and forestry businesses to hear them out before the project could get approved. Because without community buy-in, even a minor hiccup could have shut the whole program down. Only when virtually every question had a science-backed answer was the project finally greenlit. In May 2009, the historic moment finally arrived. In Knapdale Forest, located in the Argyll region of Western Scotland, the first 11 Eurasian beavers flown in from Norway were officially released into 3 separate freshwater lochs. This was the initial release, kicking off the Scottish Beaver Trial, the very first legally sanctioned mammal reintroduction program in UK history. The selected beavers had gone through rigorous health screenings to guarantee they weren't carrying any diseases that could threaten native wildlife. After being transported by air and then overland to Scotland, they were released into their new home under the watchful eyes of experts. The following year, the project added a few more individuals, bringing the total number of beavers reintroduced during the trial to 16 from day one. The project was a lightning rod for controversy all across Scotland. Conservation groups hailed it as a historic opportunity to restore a missing link in the ecosystem. But on the flip side, plenty of farmers and landowners were deeply concerned. They were terrified that beaver dams would flood grazing pastures, block drainage ditches, and result in riverside trees being chopped down en masse. Some folks even argued that, after 400 years, Scotland had just changed too much and there simply wasn't room for this animal anymore. The media at the time was all over these clashing opinions. Some called it a historic leap for nature conservation, while others slammed it as an incredibly reckless experiment, arguing that if the project flopped, public trust in future animal reintroductions could be severely damaged. Because of all this pushback, the Scottish Beaver Trial wasn't designed as just a simple drop-'em-off-and-see operation. It was a multi-year scientific experiment with an incredibly strict monitoring system. Researchers tracked every single individual using GPS tags, logging changes in the vegetation, water quality, population sizes of other animals, and even the reactions of the local community. Every new dam built, every tree felled, and every new flooded patch of land was meticulously documented. The research teams even regularly ran comparisons between areas with beavers and areas without them, so they could pinpoint the exact impact the animals were having, rather than just relying on gut feelings or anecdotal observations. None of them expected to witness a miracle in just a few months. All they really wanted was the answer to a question that had been hanging in the air for centuries after a 400-year absence. Did beavers still have their ecosystem engineer instincts intact, and could just a handful of individuals actually jumpstart the natural processes that Scotland had lost since the Middle Ages? Part 4. What happened next blew all expectations out of the water. Just weeks after being released into Knapdale, The beavers started doing exactly what their ancestors had done before they were wiped out of Scotland over 4 centuries ago. Zero training required. No human guidance needed. They quickly scoped out the surrounding area, zeroed in on spots with just the right amount of water flow, and got straight to building. Small trees were taken down with their insanely strong front teeth. Branches were dragged to the water's edge and woven together with grass, rocks, and mud to form their very first dams. It was pure instinct. But it was exactly what the scientists had been hoping to see after years of project prep. To them, every completed dam wasn't just a shelter for a beaver family. It was hard proof that this animal had fully retained its ecological role, forged over millions of years of evolution. Trail cameras set up around the site constantly captured footage of the beavers working the night shift, dragging branches almost as long as their own bodies into the stream, patiently patching up every little gap with mud and grass. Over time, the dams became more elaborate. The fast-flowing currents began to slow down, pooling into calm, still waters behind the dams. Small ponds popped up in places that used to be nothing more than narrow creeks. That's exactly when researchers started logging massive, undeniable changes across the entire surrounding ecosystem. Water was hanging around much longer after rainstorms, rather than just blasting downstream like before. Silt and sediment started settling behind the dams instead of washing away, which actually improved the water quality further downstream. Areas that used to bone dry in the summer were holding moisture way longer, while the newly formed pools started linking up with neighboring small lochs, creating a habitat network far richer than anything seen before the beavers showed up. But what really fascinated the scientific community wasn't the dams themselves. It was how nature reacted to them. In no time at all, these new waters became prime real estate for a whole host of other wildlife. Aquatic plants started growing incredibly dense along the water's edge. Underwater bug populations exploded, bringing dragonflies, frogs, and a ton of water birds flocking back to feed. Areas that used to be just a monotonous flowing channel morphed into highly diverse habitats with varying depths and flow speeds, making it super easy for a ton of species to thrive together. A lot of researchers describe this process as nature's domino effect. The beavers didn't literally carry other animals back with them. They just tweaked the living room, and that brand new environment naturally drew in other species to settle down, breed, and form a fully functioning ecosystem, all without humans having to lift a finger. Studies conducted during the monitoring period also revealed that beaver constructions brought benefits way beyond initial expectations. Holding water back longer dialed down the flow rate during heavy rainstorms, which played a huge role in cutting down localized flooding downstream. On top of that, the water stockpiled in the ponds and wetlands helped the area stay much more hydrated during drought periods. The dams basically acted as natural filters, trapping a bunch of mud and excess nutrients before they could wash down the river. This really helped boost water quality and created perfect conditions for aquatic life to boom, rather than just building a house for themselves. Every beaver dam accidentally turned into a piece of green infrastructure serving the entire ecosystem. The craziest part of all is that none of these changes came from heavy machinery or multi-million-pound construction projects. They were engineered by an animal that humans had completely wiped off the map in Scotland. After being MIA for over 400 years, the beaver seemingly never forgot how to do its job. And that was the exact moment a lot of people started realizing maybe nature always knows how to heal itself, as long as the MVP species are given a chance to come back. Part 5. From a controversial trial to a conservation milestone. After years of close monitoring, what was once seen as a highly risky trial had steadily become one of the most heavily scrutinized and well-researched conservation projects in Scotland. Scientists didn't just sit back and watch the beavers' behavior. They crunched the data on water quality, vegetation shifts, bird counts, insects, amphibians, and how the dams actually affected river flow. The results showed that the vast majority of the ecological benefits they had hoped for were actually happening in real time. New wetlands were being carved out, habitats for countless species were expanding, and the river systems were getting way more diverse than before, even though there was still some friction with farming in specific areas. The studies concluded that most of these headaches could absolutely be managed with the right mitigation strategies, rather than yanking the beavers out of the wild. In 2016, after reviewing all the findings from the Scottish Beaver Trial, along with a ton of supplementary research, the Scottish government made a historic decision. Eurasian beavers were officially recognized as a native Scottish species and were granted legal protection. This decision marked the official homecoming of a species that had been gone from the country for over 4 centuries. Not long after, reintroduction programs were expanded to several other regions to slowly but surely restore the ecological role beavers used to play in the past. What makes this story so special isn't really about the 11 individuals dropped off in 2009. It's about the massive lesson behind it all. For decades, humans have pumped billions of dollars into building flood control dams, restoring rivers, and reviving wetlands using heavy machinery and crazy complex engineering projects. But as it turns out, sometimes a piece of the answer has already been sitting right there in nature for millions of years. Beavers don't grasp the concept of water resource management, and they have no clue what ecosystem restoration means. They're just doing what evolution hardwired them to do. Yet those seemingly mundane habits end up driving changes that benefit the entire ecosystem. Today, beavers are no longer written off as just tree-chopping rodents. They are recognized as some of the most crucial ecosystem engineers on the planet. And the story in Scotland is constantly cited as a prime example of the sheer power of restoring nature by bringing back keystone species. Sometimes, the best way to fix an ecosystem isn't to build more infrastructure or micromanage nature to death. Sometimes, all nature really needs is for us to put back the exact creatures that had been quietly keeping everything balanced long before humans ever showed up. With just 11 beavers in that initial release, Scotland proved that sometimes the biggest changes don't kick off with massive machines, but by simply giving nature a chance to get back to doing what it does best. The story of Scotland's beavers is a massive reminder that nature often operates in ways humans have only just begun to wrap our heads around in recent decades. For hundreds of years, we genuinely believed beavers were just nuisance rodents obsessed with chewing down trees. But when they vanished, a massive critical link in the ecosystem quietly disappeared right along with them. And it wasn't until they were brought back that humans finally woke up to the true value of this animal. It's worth noting that the Scottish Beaver Trial wasn't some overnight miracle. It was the payoff of nearly a decade of scientific prep work, years of boots-on-the-ground monitoring, and an absolute mountain of rigorous research. Because of that, the project's success didn't just change how Scotland views beavers, it actually shifted the playbook for nature restoration programs all across Europe. Today, multiple countries are actively considering or have already reintroduced beavers as a nature-based solution to revive wetlands, boost biodiversity, and build resilience against climate change. Maybe the biggest takeaway here isn't about mud dams or chewed-up tree trunks. The real lesson is that an animal once wiped out by humans can make a comeback and pick up right where nature left off thousands of years ago. Zero blueprints required. No engines or machinery needed. They still know exactly what to do to carve out new waters, bank up water supplies, and pave the way for hundreds of other species to thrive. Sometimes, we trick ourselves into thinking that fixing nature requires massive, billion-dollar mega projects. But the story in Scotland proves something totally different. There are ecosystems out there that don't need humans to micromanage and rebuild every little detail. All they really need is to get back the species that held the most critical jobs for thousands of years of evolution. And honestly, that might just be the most mind-blowing part of this whole story. After a 400-year hiatus, the beaver never forgot how to build a dam. Maybe nature never forgot how to heal itself either, so long as we just give it a fighting chance.